What's up, fellas? It is a beautiful day outside. So I want to talk about a follow-up on the Berserk method video, bro. There's core lifts that I put in every program because one, they ensure that we don't have common weaknesses, and two, that we make consistent progress because we don't have those common weaknesses and that you don't reach plateaus. You'll know exactly how to use them, when to use them, how much of them to use, and then be able to put it in whatever training program you're using. I give y'all some examples in the description for free, but if you run, push-pull legs, full body, whatever you use, you'll know how to use these exercises and get more jacked and stacked or stronger. Fellas, it's like 90 degrees outside. The jersey had to come off. I just wanted to show you the Berserk merch. But first and foremost, we already know we got to talk about the Larsen press. I'm not going to bemoan the benefits. I am going to bemoan the benefits. Look, man, it's the greatest bench press exercise of all time. It shows you how to engage in movement with your upper back properly. It gets you more out of less weight. It gives you a full, robust stimulus on the upper body. I have bemoaned the benefits. What I want to talk about mostly is how I like to program a generalized pressing workout and then just insert and use Larsen press as an example. So I have it up on the screen. You have two options. You can just treat Larsen press as the bench press and do a close grip and wide grip variation of that, or you can do a regular bench press on one day and then a Larsen press on another day. Either way it goes, it starts off with the main press. You sandwich something between that and then the accessory press or something that you're doing to get extra volume in that pattern. This will also apply, by the way, if you want to insert overhead press in here. Same thing, except for it's vertical. After that, you do your, like I said, your accessory, and then you do your generalized tricep work. It always starts with a press down first and then an extension. You need to get your elbows ready to be able to do extensions. Not a lot of people have the capability of just doing like a skull crusher or a JM press without elbow pain. You got to warm up first. Someone's gonna ask, well, what should the accessory press be? What should my tricep work be? Patience, bro. We're gonna talk about those later in the list. Just keep that template in mind. You can extrapolate that out to upper, lower, full body. I have examples in the description. By the way, bro, I was just counting the exercises in my head just now, and bro, there's a little bit more than 10. I'm terrible at math, so you're getting a little bit more than you bargained for, but the second exercise that we're gonna talk about specifically is an RDL. You can extrapolate that out to what I like to call a reach RDL. But what I find is that posterior chain strength and the ability to hinge properly is a big area of opportunity with every lifter, including people that are very strong. You have them doing RDL and it looks like shit most of the time. If you'd like intricate detail for the form that you should be striving for on an RDL or a stiff-legged deadlift, bro, watch this video. It's hilarious. It has a fun thumbnail. We talk about that there. What I want to talk about is how to include it in your larger training program. So there's two major ways that you can do it, and they're very similar. There's small differences between the two. First and foremost, you're using it as a way to fill in volume after you do like a couple sets of regular deadlifts. That's how most people are going to want to do them if you don't have like a big base of strength. Because the thing with RDLs, and other people have talked about this as well, it can be hard to progress on them in terms of load. Like you can add your reps and your sets and everything, but eventually it'll get hard to add load and then be able to stay in your rep range if you don't have like a base of neurological strength. That's just a gigabrain way of saying that if you haven't done some deadlifting in your life or have a base of strength from like squatting or something, it may be hard for you to push the loads on an RDL adequately to be able to get a good stimulus for it after a while. So you can just include it after some conventional deadlifts. So like 1 or 2 sets of deadlifts, lower reps. Like I said, you're just trying to get that neurological adaptation. You fill in with like sets of 8 to 12 on the RDLs somewhere later in the program or later in the week. Now, regardless, after you do a hip hinge, you're gonna have a lower back pump. You cannot remove the lower back from a hip hinge. It is okay to feel your lower back on a hip hinge. I'm tired of hearing that bullshit, okay? But you can alleviate that and kind of rejuvenate your lower back by just training your abs right after. I really like leg raises. GHD sit-ups on the bells of steel reverse hammer is something that I spam all the time. I have thick, chunky, dense abs because of that freaking machine, okay? That's my favorite. Y'all can go ahead and grab one of those or do one at your gym on like a decline bench if you don't have access to one. The second way is if you have a base of strength, like myself, for example. I'm good at deadlifting. I don't have to deadlift to be good at deadlifting. It just is what it is. So I use it as a main lift. I don't conventional deadlift at all right now because I'm able to reap the benefits from an RDL without having to rely on a neurological adaptation from the deadlifts, okay? It's the same basic structure, except for I'm not deadlifting. So you do your RDLs. I do a little bit more sets than you may need to. like between 4 or 5 sets. And then after that, it's the same thing. I'm doing some ab work. Then after you do your ab work, bro, it's very minimalist after that. You've basically just destroyed your entire lower body, or at least your posterior chain. What I like to do is I then isolate the lower body muscles that I didn't use, or ones that I would like to touch up some more. So I'm hitting the adductors, the quads, and then the hamstrings. That may only take you like 45 minutes to an hour, bro. So here's the thing. I also like to pair this with what I call floater exercises. That's another staple in the Berserk method. Floaters are just like miscellaneous exercises that are little or no fatigue that you can just splash anywhere. It doesn't matter what you're doing. And that's what I use to make my training programs, both for myself and people that hire me, very robust and to get the best results possible so that you don't have any muscular weaknesses, or as little muscular weaknesses as possible. So that's like neck, shoulders, abs, calves, forearms, things of that nature. We'll talk about floaters in a second after we talk about the other major lower body like movement pattern, right? Nothing compares to squats. Now, I've put a lot of size on my quads. My thighs are 27 inches. Now, they did not used to be that big. They were a relative weak point for a long time until I attacked my leg training the way that I needed to grow. So let me just preface that before I give this information, because I'm going to talk in a few different directions. One for fellas like myself, and then for fellas that, you know, can do a more conventional approach to their squat training. Now, what we want to keep in mind, regardless of where your circumstances are at, like your leverages, your limb length, your femurs and shit like that, when you squat for hypertrophy and you get more of a back workout than a leg workout, you're fucking something up, or the way that you're doing it is not conducive to your goal. So you need to adjust that if the goal is not to just get a big squat, but to get big legs from your squat. Does that make sense? Just as a rule of thumb, this is if you're doing like a leg machine, like a free squat, you want to maintain good forward knee travel throughout the range of motion. How do you program this though? Like, what exercises do you prioritize? Here's the thing, like I said, it breaks down into 2 separate camps. You got the long femur fellas that have like a stripper squat, quote unquote, just naturally. It's myself included. And then you have fellas that have shorter femurs and can stay really upright when they squat. The exercises are going to be the same, but the dosage is going to be different, and so is the priority, in my opinion. And this is for hypertrophy. I'm not speaking for strength. You squat to get better at squats. I'm talking about for hypertrophy. Now, for me, I really like leg machines. This is for fellas like myself that have a hip dominant squat, wherein when we do squats, we feel like we get a better back workout than a leg workout. Okay, so if that applies to you, you may want to keep this in mind. Leg machines are really good because they pretty much lock you into like the optimal, I hate using that word, bro, the optimal position to put your knees over your toes without your hips shooting up or your back getting involved. I really like deep leg presses. Hack squats also come into play. But why I really like leg presses is that you can like maneuver yourself so that you have no lower back fatigue, no lower back rounding, and that it's all quads. Dr. Mike actually just did a training video with this lady, and she said like, dude, this was harder than hack squats. It can be if you do it that way. I just put like a yoga block behind my back, bro. It's about that thick. It stops your lower back from rounding and it lets you get really deep. I'll do that, and then right after that, while my legs are still pre-exhausted, and this is like something that I also got from Dr. Mike as well. A lot of this shit works for natural lifters. You just have to know how and when to apply it to yourself. But something that he does is that he does like a leg machine or a leg press to pre-exhaust the quads or the legs or whatever he's doing. And then after that, when the legs don't need as much weight to get a good stimulus, we'll do like a tempo pause squat. And that's what I'll do. I'll do like a deep leg press and then like a really deep tempo pause squat where I can focus on keeping my knees over my toes. I don't have to worry about using that much weight. And I know that I can command the weight and use a good movement pattern throughout to failure because it's objectively just a small amount of weight. This is called improving the stimulus to fatigue ratio. It's just something that I talked about in the Berserk method. Watch that video after you watch this one if you haven't watched this one. Why are you watching the supplemental video if you did not watch the original one? Go watch that video after this. Now, for fellas that are more blessed, quote unquote, with their leverages and that they can stay up and down on a squat, these fellas are going to do the squats first and then the leg machines. Now, the reason for that is that all things being equal, meaning if you're able to take it to failure with good form, I think that squats blow leg machines out of the water in terms of raw stimulus that they can provide. Now, regardless of what your individual leverages are, the rest of your workout's gonna look pretty similar. Again, you're gonna isolate with your odds and ends, like your leg extensions, your ham curls, and your ab work. So we've ominously mentioned floater exercises enough now. Let's talk about what they are, okay? So they're your why nots. They're, okay, I'm willing to put in some extra effort in the gym after I do my big movements to either add pounds to my physique, shore up weak points, or just work a little bit harder and make myself that much better. You can fit these into any training day on any training program, regardless of what your goals are, and here's how you do it. Now, some of my favorites, and I'll break them down categorically, so like your shoulders, your abs, forearms, neck, so on. I like seated back supported lateral raises. I like anything with the neck harness. I've put on like half an inch on my neck already. I also like the holy trinity of ab exercises. That's your leg raises, that is your freaking ab wheel, and then GHD sit-ups. If you don't have a GHD, also you can use like a decline, sit-up bench. Something that you have at pretty much any commercial gym. Now for rear delts, if you have a pec deck, I like reverse pec deck. That's my favorite. But rear delt skiers, bro, they look cool in my opinion, but it's an unusual looking exercise that actually fries your rear delts. So I love that one as well. These are the lifts that we say we're gonna do at home, and then we never do, okay? Here's how I like to do them. It's two different ways. Strategically, I'll use both in the same session, okay? So the first way is that after like a big compound or a series of big compounds, I'll use 1 or 2 sets of floaters. You're gonna wanna pick a movement that doesn't incorporate muscles that you just were beating the shit out of. So if I was just doing squats, I may do something like calves or abs or side delts, like the seated lateral raises. I'll do like 1 or 2 sets just to allow me to catch my breath, and then I'll superset the rest of those remaining sets with something else in the program, including other floaters, bro. You can superset floaters with floaters. Which brings me to the second strategy, and that is anything that is supersettable. So anything that wasn't like your opening main work, you can do a floater exercise after that. So for example, if you do like tricep rope push downs, there's no reason why you can't just do some lateral raises or some abs right after that if you wanted to. Now our next series of exercises, which I alluded to in the beginning, is your ring work. These are movements that you can use to fill in like classic bodybuilding staples. 1, they take up a lot less space. 2, they're a lot cheaper. And 3, they offer just as much functionality to where you could do a 1-for-1 plug-in. Now specifically, I'm talking about ring push-ups, ring dips, and then ring pull-ups. Ring push-ups are like an equal replacement for dumbbell press in that you get the full stretch and you actually get a better squeeze at the top, okay? You can also modify the angle just the same as a dumbbell press by going incline or decline with your feet. And that's exactly how I use them. So track back to that example that I gave you at the beginning with a general pressing workout. In that accessory slot, you could plug in ring push-ups there. You can add load, or you could scale them by changing where you push from. I made an entire video talking about that in terms of ring push-ups. Check that out sometime later after you watch this one. Now in terms of that slot between your presses, there's a lot of different things you can put there. One that I really like that is time tested is just an antagonist exercise, like an opposite exercise. What is opposite to a push-up but a pull-up or like a row? I'm gonna talk about ring pull-ups, specifically because I feel like they simulate the best parts of like a lat pull-down machine at the gym. To me, it's not necessarily the fact that it's a machine that is so good, but the fact that you can put on attachments that allow you to adjust like your wrist position, which is really, really good for scalability long-term in terms of your joint health. Over time, as your muscles get bigger, some people can't supinate and pronate the same way that they did when they first started out training. So this allows you to pull in the most comfortable position for you, essentially. And then 2, with pull-ups for hypertrophy anyway, it's really best, in my opinion, that you try to stay straight up and down as much as you can if you're trying to recruit your lats and your lower lats. With rings, it's a lot more intuitive because you don't have a bar in the way, so it's really easy to just stay straight up and down. You can also simulate the much memed on and dreaded iliac pull down in terms of functionality just by tucking your legs or pushing your legs straight out and doing an L-sit. L-sit pull-ups are one of the best lower lat exercises that I have ever done. My best at the moment right now is 21 reps at about $198. So that's what I'm working with now. And bro, let me tell you something about that particular movement. I do tons of rows, tons of pulls in general. This has been consistently getting my back sore every time I do it with just 4 sets. Now, I am a big enjoyer of weighted calisthenics as well, which if you want it to scale by adding load instead of just changing the leverage, bro, just fucking add load. It's not rocket science. But with regards to push-ups versus dips, you may find that it's more intuitive to add weight on the dips unless you had like a weight vest or something like that. Last but not least, and this is a game changer, we've talked about this throughout the video, but it's going to be your targeted isolation. We mentioned triceps at the beginning of the video. Bicep training is also going to complement your pulls, and then your leg extensions, your leg curls and such are going to complement your lower body compounds. Why is this important? What you may find with these bigger compounds is that they do a really good job of working one or two muscles that are in that compound lift, but there is one that contributes to like the weight and performance that you can do, and thus like the volume that you can accumulate eventually, but it doesn't get worked that well. So leg extensions, hamstring curls, that's either seated or lying, it doesn't matter. You're gonna do both at some point. There's fucking studies that say the seated ones are better, but bro, that's not been my experience. They're just both different. You're gonna do them both at some point. So just, the answer is yes, just fucking pick one, whichever one you have access to, whichever one you like more and that you get a better mind muscle connection with. That is how I want you to pick that particular leg curl. I'm sorry, bro, that just, it pisses me off. Also, you got your hip adduction, like pushing your knees in. It's the good girl, bad girl machine. It's a stupid looking machine, I know, but I think, you know, when you're on the side and your fucking arms are pumped and your fucking legs look jacked as fuck, I think it looks pretty cool if you think about it that way. That's gonna work your adductor, which is like a meaty part that you see primarily on the front of your leg that is like literally half of the front of your thigh. Also contributes a lot to performance, particularly out of the hole on squat. So that is a muscle wherein I've heard people say that, look, this fucking dainty machine is a better squat assistance exercise than squatting is sometimes. That's certainly been my experience depending upon what my weaknesses were at the moment. Now in terms of the arms, I really like really long rope push downs to let your arm get behind your body and get a full contraction. Here's the thing with triceps, bro. Here's how I want you to think about tricep isolation. Your arm, when it fully extends, you're really working all three heads of your tricep, regardless of the fact of if you're doing a close grip bench or a tricep extension. It's just about removing larger muscle groups from the equation so that your triceps have to do more work. But they're getting recruited maximally in terms of their function on a close grip bench. You're fully extending your arm, you're working your tricep, but we're giving them a laser targeted stimulus with the press down. So it's just something I want you to keep in mind. I don't want you to think that the compounds are unnecessary and that they don't work the triceps at all. They do, but just not as much as an isolation exercise could by definition. I always start with that really long rope push down because I'm trying to get a full contraction on the triceps. After that, I bridge into an extension. Like we talked about in the intro, you always do those extensions first so that your elbows are ready. Triceps are really important to build up because they help you in your presses. They'll help you be more performant in your presses, which is good either for strength or for hypertrophy, regardless of what your goals are. I want you to think of biceps the same way. They literally do the same fucking thing in pulls, bro. So if you want to get a better weighted pull-up, you get those biceps bigger and stronger. What is the name of the game? The laws of bicep training are supination, stretch. It's an alliterative. Pronation isn't as fun to say, but you either pronate, whether that's semi-pronated or fully pronated, to work your brachialis and then your forearms as well. All of those things are really important to build up, not only in terms of pounds added to your physique, but also your aesthetics. And of course, last but not least, your strength and again, your performance on rows and pull-ups and things of that nature. I have an example on the screen of like a generalized pulling workout if you were to have a back day, either in the confounds of a pressing workout or just on a singular back day if that's what you wanted to do. All right, fellas, the shirt is back on because I'm about to head back inside, get some food in my belly. If you have any questions about what we talked about today, please let me know. Be on the lookout for something that I'm probably gonna title like Almighty Arm Exercises for Beef Cannon Arms or some shit like that. I like them to be clickable, but then also I like to have like fun with the titles as well, because I feel like every aspect of your training you should seek to learn more and employ better strategies with, and arm training is something that I've sharpened up a lot on. Again, watch the Berserk method. I probably have it right here on the end title card thing. Watch that if you haven't already. That's for everyone that has questions about coaching or wants to coach themselves. Y'all have a good day.